Still Got the Blues by Gary Moore. I mean, what an awesome performance from a guitar standpoint, but really from a song standpoint as well. It's just such an amazing tune. So today in this video, I want to just dive a little deeper and find out what's so special about this Still Got the Blues song and solo. And then in general, find out what Gary Moore's style is really all about, because he is kind of a unique case in my view. He's both a great blues guitarist, but then he's also a hard rock virtuoso, I would say. Yeah? And the mix of those two is kind of unique, I think. And because of that, he also mixes two elements, and we're gonna go a little deeper into that. And for me, it's the blues element with the gritty, nasty, almost brutal blues. And then it's the melodic element, which is the classical, harmonious, sophisticated, maybe even neoclassical element that he uses. So if you stick around until the end, you'll have a much better idea what Gary Moore's playing is all about, how you can play in a similar style, what note material you need, what phrasing you need, and how you can get a little bit closer to play like your heroes. But why should I be the guy you should be listening to? Well, my name is Ulrich Ellison. I've been a pro guitarist for the last 25 plus years. I've played thousands of shows on 3+ continents. And while I'm not a Gary Moore specialist, I am a specialist in the field of guitar improvisation. And I'm the founder of Total Guitar Transformation, our online guitar academy, where I help aspiring guitarists of all ages to unleash their full potential on guitar. But let's get started. So let's look first at the harmony of this song, because I really believe that in order for you to play well over a song, over a backing track, you need to understand the harmonic foundations of that track. So this song is in A minor. Yeah? So if we look at the chords here, then we have a very classical progression that, it's almost Baroque. So let's look at the progression in a close-up. Starts on a minor 7/4 chord, then goes to a G7, C minor 7, then F major 7, half diminished, E7, and then on an A minor again. Yeah, I think he does a figure like something like this. Yeah, I didn't transcribe the song, but the harmonic circle is very classical. Yeah, it's actually, if you look at it, fifth relationships. Yeah? So we go from the D minor to the G7, and we go to the C major to the F. Then we got the half diminished to the E7 to the A minor. Yeah? So I would recommend, if you really want to study this song, to first put this progression on a looper and just jam over it. Huh? It can be a strummed pattern, it can be the arpeggiation, it doesn't really matter. But you want to familiarize yourself with this progression. Now the beautiful thing here is that you can play just straight up A minor blues, or you can go inside of the chords. So let's say we wanted to go inside of the chords. Yeah? Let's actually look at the melody, what the melody does. Yeah? So we play. So what's happening here? This is the fifth of D minor. This is the root note. This is the third. So Gary is clearly outlining the D minor triad. Yeah? And then he's resolving So he's landing here on the D, which is the 5th of the G7. Yeah? So that covers 2 chords already. And then he keeps going with that sequence in a very similar way, if you look at it. And then, you know, if he was going to continue that sequence, he would have to go. Instead, he doesn't do that note, he just goes. And then he lands on the A, yeah? So he's outlining the chord tones in a very musical way and creating a sequence. I think those are 2 thoughts that are very important. First of all, chord tones. Second of all, creating sequences. So how can we use the same principle in our solo? Let me go back and find some sequences here over the chords, over this backing track, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. And I'm gonna ignore that bridge section for now because, you know, I just want to study the style. It's less for me about being able to play the whole song. You can apply all the same strategies over the whole song too, yeah? But for now, let's find ways of integrating the D minor beginning into the improvisation in a melodic way. Let's try it. So you see there's many different ways to use that progression and to create a sequence. You could just be creative with that. Yeah? But what I really want to find out now is how can we take the blues pentatonic and turn this blues pentatonic into something more melodic. And I already kind of know the answer to that. And the thing is, you know, sometimes you don't need to play all the notes of the minor scale to sound melodic or sound classical. Sometimes the in-between is just the perfect sweet spot between sounding bluesy and sounding melodic. What I'm talking about here is the hexatonic scale, which is the minor pentatonic plus the 9 interval. In our case here in A minor, this will be A minor pentatonic and the B note. Let's actually find the B note first. Here's one. Here's one. Here's one. So here's one. You gotta be able to find your B's, yeah? Otherwise this is not gonna work. And now let's look at some typical vocabulary that's not bluesy, that incorporates the B note here, yeah? I'm just gonna put it on a drone and then I'm gonna play some lines here, yeah? Here we are. That's a good one. This fragment is an awesome fragment, yeah? In general, this whole sequence this is the last jazzy one, yeah? So there's his own vocabulary of pentatonic plus that ninth. And I'm going to show you how powerful this is. I'm just going to play some of these lines here over the backing track, and you tell me if this works. So, you know, the awesome thing is, even if I don't really know what chord I am on, I can still play very melodically and weave my way through, because there's really not many wrong notes that I can hit with any of those choices. Worst case, I'm gonna have to kind of embellish from that ninth, for example, back to the root note, to the A. But it's really working well, and it's giving me a melodic flavor that really works. Yes, so imagine now that you can switch between the pure blues grid, you know, if I... this kind of vibe, and you go to... this melodic sound, yeah? All you do is you add one note and you switch to different vocabulary. So those two elements are already super important, I think, to understand Gary Moore's style, is the blues part and then the melodic part using the ninth interval. But then there's something else, and that is really the classical sound, and I would call it the harmonic minor sound that Gary just has in his playing. It almost makes it sound a little bit neoclassical, and that is his use of the leading tone. What is a leading tone? I always promise my students not to go into theory, so I can just explain the leading tone super simple. You know, when we're in a key, let's say here we're in A minor, the leading tone is a half step below the root note. That's it. That's where the leading tone is. So in this case, it would be the G sharp. The G sharp also happens to be the major third of the 5 chord E. So it's that note that resolves to the 1 chord A minor, yeah? And then so how can we incorporate that into a solo? Well, it means that we can play the leading tone whenever we are on the E7 or E major. We can do that anytime, but it doesn't just have to be on the E major chord. You can play the leading tone whenever you feel like a chromatic approach to that A root note would sound good. Yeah, so I can play. I can play lines like that. It just makes it sound very melodic. Yeah. It really sounds nice, huh? So let me see if I can make this vocabulary work over the backing track. Let's go. So let's talk about one more thing. For you to fully understand what's going on here, we need to have a look to that bridge section, and because there's some new harmony entering the game. So we got A minor, E minor, now it's minor, yeah? Then we got D7 here, and then we got this F7, F7-9 here, which is not really part of the scale. You know, there's some alteration going on, and it resolves to the 5, yeah? And the cool thing here is, and then we got this sweet sounding F7 chord here, which is on the B6, right, of our key A minor. So that's adding some nice tension there. And what I like here is that Gary just outlines that chord pretty much consistently, but bending to the B5 interval. So that's really cool, because the B5 is actually the flat 7 of that F7 chord, yeah? So it fits really well. So I would say, all in all, if we have the A minor pentatonic here as our first concept of playing the blues, still got the blues, right? And then we add in the 9th as a melodic element, the B note, we get a more melodic sound. And then, to get that neoclassical sound, we add in the leading tone, the G sharp, and then last but not least, we add in that flat 5 very consciously over the F7. If we do all that, then we pretty much have all the puzzle pieces you need to play and improvise over Still Got the Blues. So now it's just up to you to get all these approaches together and create your own story of Still Got the Blues. Of course, you can learn Gary's solo, you know, that's cool. Learn the intro, I would advise to that. But then at some point, it's just going to be way more interesting to develop your own vocabulary with this approach. Go and learn the 9th vocabulary. That's really, really important and useful. And if you want to learn more about playing lead guitar like this with proven shortcuts and more practical approaches, then I can just invite you to go down there in the description and download my LLG method ebook that combines all these successful approaches into one lead guitar method that you can study. You can either study it by yourself or you can study it with my help. It's all in the book. You can just download this down here in the description. All right, so I hope you got a lot out of this lesson and you're gonna jam over the backing track that I'm also leaving here for you. And thanks for being part of my channel. And why don't you watch this video here next?